So we did a survey of our members and asked them to tell us what their priorities were and what they thought the European region's priorities should be, and whether or not they thought Inclusion International's policy priorities were the right ones. And we got very interesting feedback from that. Broadly, people were happy with, or our members in Europe were happy with, the priorities. There were some differences between their national priorities and our European priorities. One of the surprises was that at the national level, they didn't rate development of self-advocacy as a strong priority, but they saw it as a European priority for us to work on. So that was quite interesting. It also gave us, we used it as an opportunity to ask them what big events were happening in their countries that would be of interest to others in Europe, and what they thought was happening in Europe that they would be interested in, so we could get just more engagement and more activity happening. So we've got countries bidding to host Europe in Action and bidding to host Hear Our Voices, which is the conference we run every second year for self-advocates, by self-advocates. And so that's great. And also to host board meetings. Other development this year that we're very pleased about is we've reinstituted directors' meetings, because the representatives who come to our board or to our conferences and events are not always the directors of the organisations, and they're not always the most powerful people in our member organisations. So we always used to have directors' meetings, and we've brought those back into the programme. We used the conference in Slovenia to encourage and warm people up to come, and then had a directors' meeting in Brussels at which we shared the results of the survey that we'd done. And we had very frank discussions, but it's really good to get that feedback on what's working and what's not working. And we know what we need to work on and what we need to improve, and I think it's really made us much stronger. And it was fantastic to see, as I'm sure all of the other regions see too, the real strength of our movement in the commitment of the people leading the organisations, and the strength of thinking and reasoning. The power that we have in that was just very, very reassuring. So it was a really good event. Other big issues are EPSA, our network of self-advocates is growing in power, which is fantastic, really making demands of us, holding us to account, taking responsibility and doing work as powerful members of Inclusion Europe on a more equal basis than I think would have been the case in the past. On the downside, we have problems with support for EPSA, because our members are not willing to pay to send self-advocates and their supporters to meetings. So getting people together is harder than ever before. And then the other thing that I think might be interesting is the work we're doing with strategic partners. In Europe there are so many networks doing so many things. Who should we really engage with? So we've had to prioritise that and say, here are the things that matter. Here are the bits of the European Commission we need to prioritise. Here are the organisations we need to prioritise, and what are we going to do with them? And chief amongst the networks is the European Disability Forum, which is at Europe, the equivalent of IDA. So a very important forum in which we have to be influential.